This episode of Rick and Rick is brought to you by Taskin, the first name in ultra-stylish, premium quality travel gear, like the Taskin Air Duo dual-sided compression packing cubes. One side's 100% air breathable to keep clean clothes fresh and wrinkle-free. The other side's odor and water-resistant to keep dirty laundry sealed up tight. Now you can pack up to 40% more in the same space. Save 30% on your next purchase when you use the promo code R&R Take 30. That's R&R Take 30 at TaskinSF.com.
Welcome to an all-new episode of Rick and Rick. In the conclusion of our annual coverage of every geek's favorite get-together, guests Kurt Ho and Eric V continue to interview the Ricks about their time at Comic-Con International 2025. And it all starts right here, right now, on the one show where everybody gets a Rick out of comic books and everybody rules the world.
Okay, my next question is, what panels did you guys attend, and if anything stood out?
I went to three panels and a little bit of a fourth one. The first one, of course, being the Todd McFarlane one that I've already talked about. Rick and I did sit in on movies of 85. It was actually a lot of fun listening to the different movies that people felt were, the best movies or the most influential. I did sit in on comic books from the 1990s or something like that, but it ended up not being comic books. It ended up being literary books that had some graphic elements to them. It was a little bit weird, but it was a fun session. And then Rick and I, when we went to Todd McFarlane, we sat into the end of another session. So 3.25-ish, and really enjoyed all the sessions I went through. I wish I had spent more time before the event figuring out what I wanted to go to, but because everything was brand new, I didn't know how to figure out what to go to and what not to. Now I have a better frame of view. I think I'd do better next year.
I did go to one panel. It was like breaking into comics. And I thought, that just sounds interesting. I happened to be right near the room it was in and just, check that out. And I go in, and the guy who set up the panel apparently put the panel on the wrong day on his calendar. And he happened to be on site, just not there. And so one of the other panel members called him and stuff. But Heather Antos, she's like an editor at IDW Publishing, and I think she'd worked for Marvel or something at some point. But anyway, she just kind of took over in like the best way, and she ran the room. It was impressive just watching her, never mind what the topic was. And then what also was interesting is the advice was a lot like what I would imagine you'd hear at a conference for young advertising creatives. Because if you think about it, comic is a writer and an artist, and advertising is a pair of an artist and a writer. So a lot of the advice they were giving was pertinent. It's like, if you're a writer, find your designer friend, to draw the pages out for you. So you're not just submitting a script. It could have been any, advertising conference, just happened to be comic books. So that was kind of a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I've occasionally last 2 years, I've watched the Robotech panel on YouTube, usually after the event. Actually, this year I went to their table and I did say thank you for all their hard work, because, it does take a lot of work to keep pushing Robotech when people aren't talking about it for a long time. So I did show my appreciation and thank them personally for their hard work and effort to keep the dream alive.
Yeah, I got to say, I thought about trying to get into, I guess it was Saturday's Star Trek Universe panel, but I just kept thinking about the line at Hall H, and I figured it's got to be longer than the list of cringy plot choices in Strange New World Season 3 so far.
From all of your feedback on panels, it seemed like the bar is set relatively low on setting up a panel. So maybe we should do a panel.
That's what I'm thinking. Apparently they've got endless number of rooms to hold these things in, so I think it's worth a shot.
All right, here's my next question. Did you guys make any purchases at this year's Comic-Con, and why?
So there was I bought a few things. I bought 3 things at the show. The first thing was actually kind of fun. It was a comic book for my son. I decided to give him a graphic novel. He didn't really have comic books growing up. He wasn't into them, so he showed an interest, and so I bought him kind of an anthology of a Spider-Man story, and really he was super stoked about it. So we'll see if that ignites his interest in it. The second thing I got was actually for myself. There was a guy I went to high school with, Ann Partible, who was the creator of Johnny Bravo. And so he was at the show. And so I met up with him, hadn't seen him in 30 years. and got him to do a commission for me and draw me something. So super stoked about that. I've got a couple of people I went to high school with who've done pieces for me. And the last thing is I have a friend who's really into Transformers. So I went ahead and I saw they had these surprise boxes. So I picked one up for him and I didn't open it. I just threw it in my bag and headed to the airport, which was a mistake. So I get to the airport and I go through security. And I didn't even think anything of it, but they pulled me aside and they said, we see there's a box in your bag. Did you pack it? Did you, whatever? I said, oh, no, it's a mystery box. I bought it at Comic-Con and da-da-da. He's like, well, there's a weapon in there. I'm like, what? And so anyways, I had to go through additional screening. They took apart my bag. They opened up the box, the whole thing. And apparently there was a letter opener inside of there. And they determined that was a weapon, which is pretty funny. So
yeah, but it transforms into a Glock.
There you go.
Well, but here's the crazy thing. When I got home, it was still in the bag. They put it back in.
Well, that's because they felt stupid for pulling it over. Saying, oh, yeah, he's going to really show those envelopes a thing or two.
That's okay then.
That's right. Yeah, so I went pretty modest this year for buying things, but, I bought a couple things that were important and really enjoyed it.
I think this was the first year that I purchased anything at Comic-Con. Security guards have teased me in the past about my empty bag. Now, this time I bought some early 70s issues of Justice League that I had seen the covers of before and always wanted. And so I saw them. So I bought, I think, 4 of them. So it was kind of like instant time machine. So it was worth a little bit that I spent on that. But how about you, Eric? What'd you go home with? I thought that you were going to limit yourself to 2 pieces of artwork. It turns out it was like 2 pieces per day.
You're right about that. Yeah, it just kind of went sideways this year. I was actually looking for some things that I should have bought last year. One was this G.I. Joe 12-inch figure, which talked to the vendor that actually sells them. And they're like, yeah, that's sold out worldwide.
That was the Firefly, was it?
Yeah, it's Firefly. It's a G.I. Joe Cobra guy.
He's like the Boba Fett of G.I. Joe.
Ah, okay.
Very mysterious.
Yeah, no one knows his name. He gets paid up front, kind of like that.
Super cool, mysterious character.
Yeah, he has this gray and black camel. I have my original 1982, 84 action figure and the card still.
But you got to understand, Firefly is that way because he used to get his ass kicked when he used to go around as Buttercup. When we come back from this short break, the crew continues to discuss their Comic-Con haul, and things take a nostalgic turn. Stay tuned. Hey, Rick and Rick Nation, don't forget to check out our website at rickandrick.com. It's double the Rick in just one click at rickandrick.com. And welcome back to Rick and Rick Rule the World. Rick Matheson and Rick Wooten as the Ricks and guests Kurt Ho and Eric V talk their hauls at Comic-Con International and suddenly find themselves waxing sentimental.
I don't know if it was WonderCon or there was another convention earlier this year that I picked up a Firefly print, and then I found another one at another convention. And so I kind of switched gears a little bit from getting Star Wars stuff to getting G.I. Joe stuff. So yeah, I ended up with a print of the Baroness and the artist signed it, which is always really nice. And then recently there was a reissue of G.I. Joe 21 in the artist alley. There was a guy who actually did the cover for the one of every 250 issue 21s, which is got Snake Eyes on the cover. So those were my purchases pretty much. I pretty much had a very low budget and I stayed in budget. So I was pretty happy with that too. Because sometimes Comic-Con goes wild.
Hey, Eric, can you share a little bit about your first experience when you bought issue 21?
Oh, yeah. So when I was a little kid, my mom took me and my sister to go see the Space Shuttle land. And we were at a Circle K out in the middle of the desert, Mojave, somewhere. I don't know. And this is like at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning because the shuttle's going to be landing like, after the sunrise or something. And it's freezing. It's like 28 degrees. And she's like, go in there and get a drink or something to eat and then something to read or to play with. And so, of growing up, not a lot of money or whatever, I wanted to read something. I wanted some value. It's going to end up being interesting because I picked this G.I. Joe comic book, which actually has no words in it. And it's issue 21. And it's unbeknownst to anybody at the time, it is like literally the comic book that started off the whole cartoon comic thing of the early 80s. G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man, all those before G.I. Joe wasn't even really doing that good. But all of a sudden now this comic, now they made cartoons. And so, yeah, I have several issues of issue 21. I have my original one that's totally beat up like a 10-year-old had it. I have a graded one. It's not a very high grade. It's an 8, but it's graded and it's sealed. And then I have a third print, and I have one more. And then recently they came out with the new G.I. Joe series with a reprint of it. Plus they came out with these other missions that were silent with other G.I. Joe members being the main character, like Roadblock, Jinx, Duke, and I think it's Beachhead. So if it wasn't for that issue, I might not have ever collected comic books or liked G.I. Joe or anything like that.
It'd be really nice to be able to see comic books back into like 7-Elevens and those little convenience stores.
Isn't that interesting? I distinctly remember as a kid, my dad saying, here's 35 cents, go in the store, whatever, Circle K or 7-Eleven or something. And I went in, and instead of getting a candy bar like my brothers, would do, I got a comic. And my dad said, you got a comic instead of candy bar, huh? And I said, yeah, I want the value. This is going to last longer. Totally flummoxed him. Maybe he wanted me to get a candy bar so he could eat half of it. I'm not sure, but I do distinctly remember that, I'd take a comic book over a candy bar any day if I had to choose.
Yeah, this is going to date me pretty hardcore here, but there was a ward still in my town when I was a kid. And I remember going shopping with my mom one time, and they had one of those racks with comics on it. And so I talked her into letting me buy some. But I don't think it was the first comics I had, but it was definitely very early on.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, where I grew up, that was the only option. I mean, it was a small town, and I remember being shocked the first time I saw a store that was a comic book store. It was like, you got to be kidding me. Awesome. We'll be right back.
This episode of Rick and Rick is brought to you by Taskin, the first name in ultra-stylish, premium quality travel gear, like the Taskin Air Duo dual-sided compression packing cubes. One side's 100% air breathable to keep clean clothes fresh and wrinkle-free. The other side's odor and water-resistant to keep dirty laundry sealed up tight. Now you can pack up to 40% more in the same space. Save 30% on your next purchase when you use the promo code R&R Take 30. That's R&R Take 30. At TaskinSF.com.
And welcome back to Rick and Rick Rule the World, as the Ricks and guests Kurt Ho and Eric V share the best moments and some of the creepiest from Comic-Con 2025, as well as the advice they'd give to others thinking about attending next year's convention.
Okay, so what was your best memory from the event?
Oh, I'm kind of disassociate when I go to Comic-Con because it's just, you're in a different world for a few days. So it was a combination of like 3 things in one. So there is a particular vendor that I've bought artwork from like multiple years in a row. And this year I got this Grand Admiral Thrawn print. And Grand Admiral Thrawn is the blue Imperial guy that honestly is like undefeated anti-hero. He's really not a bad guy, but he's just awesome. And I got it from this vendor where the booth babe / sales associate always hits me up. And so that was positive. And then she tells me, oh, by the way, the guy who wrote the Thrawn books is right around the corner. And so I got my print signed by Timothy Zahn and the artist. And that was probably the best thing for Comic-Con.
I would say that there are probably 2 or 3 things that really stood out for me as my best memories. Of course, one was the Ready Player One event with Matheson. We had a pretty good time that night, and it was just a lot of fun to listen to the different music and see all the crazy people and their cosplay. I'd say the second one was actually the movie night with all of you, because we've done the show now for a while and done the Comic-Con episodes, but I never had an opportunity to meet the two of you, so that was definitely part of my highlight. And then, of course, the last one is meeting my friend Van Partible from high school and kind of seeing what was up and seeing what he's up to. So it was neat to kind of have those three very different experiences.
Yeah, it's funny how it's stuff around the event for us, because exactly the same thing. After Ready Party 1, I would say going to see Fantastic Four together, all of us, and that it was finally all four of us together in one spot, and that we got to see a fun movie. And then the last one was also all four of us. The night that you guys came over, we were at the hotel having dinner, and it was just a great conversation. And those were my favorite moments of the whole week.
I would also put that dinner was kind of also the most horrifying thing, because that Megan doll was there.
Yeah, I remember that.
They walked by us like twice, and then I went and talked to them and found out what the deal was. And they were selling them, and that was like a giveaway for the next day. But the person running the booth just decided to bring the Megan around wherever she was going. And it's like, well, that doll's like freaky.
So then, since that party, that Ready Player One party was brought up again, I remember, I think one of you guys sent me a quick video that night. From the video, was there some woman dressed kind of Tron-like?
Oh, you have no idea, Kurt. That would have been one of many, many such sights that night. Yeah.
Okay, so I wasn't wrong.
You were not wrong. What was your favorite memory, Kurt?
All right. So my favorite memory, to me, every year, Comic-Con, it's a chance for me to hang out with Eric all the time and then see his kids. And so to me, the two best memories is actually having breakfast with his boys, hanging out with them, catching up with them, and then seeing a Fantastic Four with all of us. We talk throughout the year, but it's like this is our one chance. We're all together, geeking out, and we end it with kind of this tradition we're building. Go to a movie, all of us experiencing that movie for the first time and coming out, and we were all talking about it, what we liked, what we didn't. It was just something, it's type of priceless memory to just be able to have that kind of fun. Okay, last question. Are there any tips or advice you guys can give people who are considering attending?
Don't approach Silent Bob. No, I'd say, Comic-Con is a marathon in a cape. If you're wearing a costume, you got to remember, it's not about winning every mile. It's just making it to Sunday. And as Rick and I learned the hard way, bring snacks with you if you want to live. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, you two, for joining us for this show. Like I said, it's always one of my favorite episodes each year, and it was a blast. And like we've talked about, it was fantastic that all four of us could be down there at the same time this year. And I hope that does become a tradition for us all. So thanks again for being on the show.
Thanks so much, guys.
Excellent. Thanks for having us on.
And thank you, listeners. Till next time, keep on kicking ass and keep on coming back to the one show where almost everybody's name is Rick.
And everybody rules the world.